So hi, hello. I'm Yuval Efron from Colombia, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a recent work of ours titled "How Much Public Randomness Do Modern quote-unquote Consensus Protocols Need?" This has been joint work with Joe from NYU, Benedict from NYU, and Miranda from Columbia as well. So just to set the stage, this talk is going to completely revolve around the classic and well-known Byzantine agreement problem under a synchronous communication network. Good. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I'm going to briefly describe the problem. So we have n parties, each with a respective input. At most, f of those parties are adversarial, and they can deviate from the behavior of any given protocol in a completely arbitrary fashion, and we assume a synchronous peer-to-peer network. That is, if I send a message at time t, it will arrive by time t plus 1. And we say that a protocol pi solves the BA problem if it satisfies agreement and validity, which means we all have to, in the end, agree on the output value. And if it happened to be the case that we actually all started with the same input, this value must also be the output. And of course, we must eventually halt and actually produce an output. Hence, we have termination on the board there as well. Good. So next, this talk is going to focus about three particular properties that we might care about when we talk about the BA problem. Now, the BA problem has been studied through a myriad of lenses and views and paradigms throughout the years. But in this talk, we're going to focus on three of those in particular. And arguably the most important and fundamental one is that of efficiency, which is traditionally measured by two metrics. One is the latency, which is the number of rounds that we need in order to actually produce an output. And number two is the communication complexity, which simply measures the number of bits communicated between the non-corrupt, henceforth correct, parties. Now, in an ideal world, we would like both of these parameters to be super small. Ideally, we want a protocol whose latency is O of 1 and whose communication complexity is O of n, just scales linearly with the number of parties. Good. Property number two, and I would argue that in some sense this is where the modern part comes into the title. We also, sometimes we want to require adaptive security from our consensus protocols. For example, to be resilient to bribery attacks of one kind or another. Already from the combination of both efficiency and adaptive security, we can very quickly realize that, well, deterministic protocols will not do. Following by perhaps the two most fundamental lower bounds when it comes to synchronous distributed computing, we know that any deterministic protocol requires at least f plus 1 rounds and at least n squared communication in the worst case. And so alas, we'll have to depart from deterministic protocols and introduce randomness into the picture. But the moment we do introduce randomness, the interplay with an adaptive adversary becomes quite intricate. If I do introduce randomness, but in some sense this randomness is like predictable to the adversary at all times, we are actually again faced with fundamental barriers when it comes to efficiency. One is actually quite old and says that, like, if in some sense the adversary was able to be aware of all the randomness in the protocol at all times, we would have to spend square root of n rounds. And the other one is actually more recent, showing a similar result holds for a communication complexity. Good. So in some sense, only randomness is not enough. What we actually need is unpredictable randomness, which exactly brings us to our third property. Now, at this point, you might ask, okay, what exactly is unpredictable randomness? So let me dive into that a little more. Let me put first my three properties in a nice triangle. And let's exactly dissect what I mean by we need unpredictable randomness. So the first question we're going to ask is how much of this unpredictable randomness we are going to need. The next question we should ask, okay, is how actually do I measure this unpredictable randomness? And there's actually a long line of previous works that in some sense introduces this unknown randomness by relaxing the adaptivity of the adversary as to not be what's called strongly rushing, or not being able to perform what's called after the fact removals. But in some sense, this modeling doesn't really capture the answer of like how much quantitatively do we need like bits of randomness in order to be secure against an adaptive adversary. So in this work, we take a more, I'll call it an information theoretic lens on the problem, and we specifically ask how many bits of entropy must the transcript have that are not predictable to the adversary in order to get both efficiency and adaptive security at the same time. And the way we are going to model this is via what we call, or in what's known in the community as well, as a randomness beacon. So we model it as follows. At every time t, you can imagine that a uniformly random string just falls from the sky in clear view, and we can all just view it. The one crucial property of this random string is that the adversary must make its corruptions for round r prior to seeing this random string rt of time t. Okay, and the next line is not completely formal, but it will suffice for the purposes of the talk. You can think of the amount of randomness that we use throughout the protocol as simply being the sum of lengths of these strings. And ideally, our protocol will want to use as few such bits as possible. Good, I hope that's all clear from now. Now you might ask, why do I care about this property? In particular, I could just ask, okay, why not just run a coin flipping protocol? I mean, I already assumed a majority assumption here. Argument number one, which is still quite good, but I don't know, maybe not the most convincing thing of all time, is that, to the best of my knowledge, we don't have a sub n squared communication protocol for flipping coins in an unbiasable manner. But in some sense, the more conceptual argument here, in my opinion, is that in practice, a lot of the beacons that are being run are actually profitably biasable. And unlike a consensus, usually a malicious behavior has no proof at all. Not only does it have no proof, it is completely indistinguishable at times from just the adversary being lucky. And so in some sense, the incentives to try and bias a beacon are more high. And thus, an honest majority assumption might seem justified for consensus, but does not necessarily seem justified for coin flipping. And so I'm treating this source of what I call here beacon entropy as a very expensive resource to obtain. Good. And now I can finally introduce our main result, which is unfortunately bad news. We cannot have all three at the same time. Wait, come on, slides. Good. Yeah, we must choose 2 out of 3 at all times, and there is a formal sense in which this is true. Specifically, we show that any protocol requiring both adaptive security and efficiency must use at least lambda times log n bits of entropy from the beacon, where lambda is a security parameter. Okay? We also complement this result with 3 protocols, achieving 2 of each 3 here. All of these protocols are variations of known protocols in the literature, and we simply adapt them to our framework here. So we have a protocols achieving any 2 of the 3. I think next what I'll do is I'll give you maybe a small flavor of how the lower bound argument works, at least in an intuitive way. Good. So say we want to prove the impossibility results, and say that all these circles here are participants in the protocol. Well, we are both well, we have to be efficient, so communication complexity has to be low. And let's continue for now with the case that for a simplicity, only a subset of the party speaks at each round. And so let's say at time 0, this set of parties speak, and next, I don't know, this set of parties speak, and so on and so forth. Now, assume that we have a bad adversary over here. And assume that we were actually in the case where the adversary could predict who the speaking parties are going to be in each round. Well, it's not hard to see in that case that, of course, we cannot solve a consensus, because he will see who speaks at time 0, and will just corrupt them, and so on and so forth. I hope the color contrast between the purple and the orange is sufficient. Good. So that's essentially the main intuition for how the lower bound works. One has to do some slight work in order to show this formally, in some sense, that we can define formally what does it mean for the adversary to not being able to predict the speaking parties, and this implies that the transcript of the protocol had to have high entropy. Now you might ask, okay, the setting in which only a subset of the parties speaking in each round is quite simple. So this argument can be generalized to any protocol, and I'll just give you the intuition here. In some sense, if the patterns of communication between the parties were predictable, one could apply an argument which is very similar to the seminal Dolev-Rashuk lower bound to show that there is one party that cannot know whether it needs to output, say, 0 or 1. If you want to talk more about this, feel free to come to me offline. Good. So that's a brief overview of the lower bound. Let me just now maybe say a few more words about the protocols. So pi1 is both efficient and adaptively secure. In particular, we can use the beacon as much as we want for all we care. And here's what we'll do. The set of speaking parties in each round, we're going to just sample like a fresh committee in some sense, to be the party that moves the protocol forward in each round. In order to have security parameter lambda, we need to sample a committee of that size as well. And in total, our beacon entropy is going to be about lambda times log n. Good. Number 2, if we give up on adaptive, come on. Oh, good. If we give up on adaptive security, actually, arguably, then it's fine to just have a CRS or some static coin flipping protocol, and then use the randomness from there as committees. And lastly, if we only care about adaptive security and low beacon entropy, then we only need to actually use the beacon to elect a leader in each round, and not the whole committee. And so actually the total beacon entropy is quite low, only log n, completely independent of the security parameter. This was quite quick, maybe, but it's fine. Yeah, I guess at this point I will just sum up. Essentially, I guess the main message of this talk is that there is a fundamental trade-off between these 3 properties: efficiency, adaptive security, and the expensive resource of unpredictable randomness. And unfortunately, we show that you cannot have all 3 at the same time. When it comes to open problems, it would be nice to maybe generalize this to asynchronous settings as well. Maybe there's some more stuff that I didn't think about at this time. Thank you. Feel free, yes, of course.
So firstly, I want to clarify, when you say bribery adversary, do you mean the same as dynamic corruption?
No, I don't mean mobile. Yes, I agree with that. If I really wanted to model bribes in a real way, I would have to, yes, to have people move around. I only mean someone that can pay someone to, like, do something bad in the protocol. And once they did something bad once, they're bad until the end of time.
There's no recovery.
There's no recovery. There's no recovery. Yes. Yes.
And then the second question is, so when you talk about the beacon, so your theorem is about the entropy, but when you talk about the model, you said have uniform random beacon. It seems you don't really need the beacon to be uniform random.
Oh, you're saying, yeah, you're saying it's fine if the distribution is not uniformly random. I guess that's true, actually. Yeah, it could be that it's suffices. So I guess a lower bound just proves that the transcript needs to have a lot of entropy. But I guess that entropy does not necessarily have to be completely uniformly random. Yes, yeah, we do have that in the paper as well. Yes, I just didn't, yeah, mention all that stuff here. Thank you. Yes, Aniket.
So something like niche beacon, I get that biasability problem. But if you use, let's say, verifiable random function and build beacon on base of that, it can become predictable if all the parties corrupt, but it's still not biasable, right?
Well, it's not biasable. I guess there my argument would be that any attempt to bias, like the assumption that we have an honest majority, I would count it as not as justified anymore. That would be my argument here, because an attempt to bias is completely indistinguishable from honest behavior. Do you agree with that statement? Like, if I just change my seed, right? I have no risk essentially to myself.
There in the VRF-based counters, you just use counter as a seed, right? So it's always going to be 0, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I see your point. Yeah, maybe I'm not too familiar with that, and we can take that offline, and maybe I missed something here.
Any other questions?
You said before that in the triangle, you the P1, P2, P3 map also to protocols that exist in literature or
yes,
modifications.
I didn't mention them on the slides. Yes.
Yes. About P3, can you tell me a protocol that is in the...
Actually, P3, I'm not even sure that I can give you any. Like, you choose a random leader. That leader broadcasts a value to all parties. Then we run some GA in order to agree on that. I feel like most consensus protocols in the literature run like that. You can run just do if strong, even, I guess, sure, but you will need to pick a random leader. Well, you need to run a GA for strong unanimity first or something. But yeah, sure. Yeah. But yeah, sure. So, yeah, but I should have maybe put something on the slides there, true.
Let's thank the speaker again.